Hi everyone, this is Sue Reynolds with the American Student Achievement Institute. Welcome to our webinar on redesigning school counseling for districts. And the focus of this webinar is goals and root causes and also activity exploration. And again, I'm Sue Reynolds and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute. Okay, so here's the agenda for today. We'll very quickly look at some updates and tips. We'll spend some time looking back over what schools have been doing the past month, and then we'll look forward to the next month. And then specifically, number 3, we'll look at the activities that the schools will implement in the coming 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. And then we'll talk about, as a district, things for you to consider, your activities for this month, and then also looking at where we are in getting ready to write your Lilly implementation grant. And then finally, we'll end up with some discussion prompts. If you're meeting with a district team, your team will be able to look at these questions and have a discussion following the webinar. So, okay, so let's look at those updates and tips. First of all, it's come to our attention from your schools that many of them are working with multiple technical assistance providers. So in addition to working with ASA and redesigning school counseling, they may have, or you may have contracted with CEL or Fleck Education or another technical assistance provider to help your schools. We just wanted to make sure that we weren't overlapping services. We did find that, at least with one school, and that can get really confusing. It's kind of like playing a sport with multiple coaches, and one coach tells you to run in one direction and another coach tells you to go the other way. It just can be really confusing for the schools. So if you have contracted with 2 different technical service providers, we want to make sure that you're coordinating your service providers. And so you'll want to let the other service providers know what what services we are providing for your schools. So we're helping them set up an organizational structure to collect data, to have council discussions that are broad-based involving community organizations, and to design their school counseling program. And then with you guys, we're kind of doing the same thing with the district. We're creating an organizational structure, putting together district-level data, district-level coordination, helping you look at developing really the guts of your district-wide initiative that you'll end up writing into your Lilly implementation grant. So so we just want to make sure that you're letting other technical assistance providers know that your schools are going through these activities with us, as are you. And if there's places where you would like us to talk to another provider to kind of help coordinate the services that we're providing for your schools, I'm happy to do that. We've done that a little bit with a couple of other service providers. Yeah, so we just want to make sure everything's staying really coordinated. Worst case scenario is that your schools are trying to set up 2 different organizational structures and work with 2 different processes. I mean, that would just be maddening and a waste of time. So yeah, so let's be careful with that. Okay. In looking back, so again, your schools in January put together their steering team, their council, and they collected data. And then in this current month, they've been identifying program goals. They've worked at expanding their resources, and thank you for helping them understand if you do get funding through the Lilly grant or some other funding source, the funding that will be available to them for the next 4 years. So they expanded resources, and then they set their priority goals. For most schools, the priority goals were maybe 1, 2, or 3 priority goals, or if they were anticipating getting the Lilly funds and being able to expand their program and expand their program providers, they might have teased off more than 2 or 3 priority goals. They may have maybe 10 priority goals per grade level. So they're coming into their next training with us, which will be next week, with their priority goals set. Okay, so from our perspective, things are going pretty well with the schools. We know that a lot of schools are getting ready to have their first meeting with their with their council in the next couple of days or maybe early next week. We know that a good number of schools have already had that meeting with their council. One of the things we're hearing from schools is that these council meetings have gone really well, that the schools felt like they were prepared, like they could explain the process and share the data and help come up with the goals and then those priority goals. So we're kind of getting a thumbs up from the schools, so that's encouraging. We know because we're kind of on a fast track with this timeline that schools are having to work really hard, and in the schools they hit the ground running, are really kind of in the driver's seat with this. If your school got a late start, if one of your schools got a late start, feel free to suggest to them that they talk with us about an alternative timeline. We actually have talked with 2 districts about alternative timelines, and we're happy to do that when an entire district maybe got started late in their planning process with us. So just keep in mind that this is good work. We're adjustable on our timeline as long as we can get the work done prior to you writing your Lilly grant. And then also I had a discussion this morning with a central office person, actually Jim Getz, and we were talking about how it's nice to convey to your schools that while this is a lot of work now, it's going to end up being less work at a later point, because we're going to streamline and coordinate and organize all the activities that the counselors are doing, and we're also going to remove some activities that maybe aren't as aligned with their goals. So it is some work now, as Jim pointed out to me this morning. But Jim's been through this process, as has at least one of his counselors, and they've been able to tell their other counselors that yes, this is a lot of work, but it's going to be less work in the future after we get everything organized. Yeah, so I don't know, Jim, I'm going to unmute you real quickly, or do you want to jump in here and add anything with that? Let me see. Oh, Jim, you're on mute. Yeah, you want to add anything with that?
I mean, Sue's right. The counselors, their schedules are already booked, and we all know that. Big picture-wise, though, this will help them in the long run. Our high school did this a few years back, and whined and groaned the whole way through it because it is a lot. But now they're happy they did because it's just something that. It showed them exactly where their priorities need to lie, and they became more of a guidance counselor again, which is why they got into it. So
wonderful.
It's beneficial, and it's exactly as Sue said.
Great, good. Well, Sue said, quoting Jim. So yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. So far so good. And again, if your schools are running into any issues, please make sure that they call either Debbie or Janet, whichever one of our staff is assigned to them. Both Debbie and Janet are participating on this conference call as well. Okay. So one of the things I'm really excited about is just looking at some of the stories that we're starting to find in the district level data. As you know, this is the first year that we've aggregated school data at the district level, and this has been really cool. So wanted to let you know that we now have 4 of these summary reports ready for your review. I'll show you how to access them on the online system, and then we'll look at a few. So there's a school RSC progress report, there's a summary student survey report for the district, counselor time use summary report, and priority goals summary report. And each of those reports has the data disaggregated by school. So you're able to kind of look at schools, side by side, which is really, I think, very interesting. So you get to these reports from the process page, and I wanted to show you, I don't think this got anybody into trouble, but we made an edit to your process page. We actually separated the February tasks under 2 headings. These are the things that you do before your schools go through this step. And then these are the few tasks after the school goes through their step. And I'll talk more about these when we get down to your district activities. But then the other change we made, and again, this is nothing new, same number of steps, we just divided it into two sections. And then the other thing that you'll start to see is anything where we've aggregated school data for you, we've put the word summary report in front of the title of the report, so you'll know, that this is all of your district data together. Okay, so let's just look at a couple of these reports. I think we shared this one with you last time, but this is a report from a district. This is a real district's data, by the way, and you can see that one of their schools is kind of out ahead. They've completed all of their tasks for both January and February. Most of the schools have completed their January tasks, and they're getting ready to put their February things in. All of this February stuff is due next week, so my guess is that these checks are going to just appear down the page as schools continue to document more of their work. You can see schools that have submitted things that have an R. That means that we've asked them for a revision. And then if there's something that's waiting for us to review, there will be an S in the little box. So you can also see that there's a couple of elementary schools in this district that have kind of gotten a slow start. So this one here has only done just the initial activities that we've asked the schools to do. And there may be some good reasons for this. Sometimes if we have a student death in the school or a teacher death in the school, I mean, that takes the counselor away from everything, and everything falls behind while the counselor is dealing with that crisis. Haven't had it this year, but sometimes we have years with lots of snow days, and that gets everybody behind. So there may be a really good reason that a school is behind, so we just want to explore that. It may be that the school's confused, and so I'd appreciate very much if you'd nudge them to call our staff and ask for help. And then know too that on our end we are also monitoring this. So we are noticing that this elementary school has only turned in two submissions, and we're nudging them. We're sending them emails to say, "Ooh, gosh, you're kind of getting behind. We're getting a little concerned. Is there something we could help you with?" Yeah, so you've got this report now that you can monitor school's work. Then this report I think is fascinating. Um, so this is the counselor time use data, and let's just kind of look at what we've got. In this district, only 4 of the elementary schools have reported data, and this is a real district as well. So we've got data from 4 of the elementary schools in so far. And one of the first things I kind of looked at was the percentage of time that the counselors were spending doing things that didn't relate to counseling or guidance or advocacy for kids. So this is these are tasks that probably are needed to make the school run, like maybe printing report cards or taking care of discipline or something, but it's not related to school counseling. So in elementary A, we're looking at the counselor is spending almost a fourth of their time doing things that have nothing to do with guidance or counseling. That means that in this school they think they have a full-time counselor, but they really have a just over 3/4 time counselor, because the counselor's not spending all their time doing guidance and counseling. So then, if we look down at elementary B, we're kind of seeing, the same kind of trend here. But then here's elementary C, where the counselor is spending none of their time doing non-program. So now, if I were in this district, to me, this data begs a lot of questions. And that's really the purpose of data, is to just get you to ask questions. My first question would be, are all of the schools reporting their data, their time use, the same way? It may be that that all those counselors have lunch duty to do, and in 2 of the schools, lunch duty is viewed as a non-program task, but in the other school, the counselor has put out an announcement over the PA saying, I'm going to be available in the lunchroom. If you want to come chat or ask a quick question, come find me in the lunchroom. And she or he is viewing that as guidance time rather than as non-program time. So the first thing I'd want to do is maybe talk with the counselors about, are you all coding the same way, and let's have a discussion about what are the counselors in elementary A and elementary B doing that elementary C is not doing. And then the other thing you could do with this is, if you see, oh gosh, in elementary A and B, these really are non-program tasks. These counselors are being used to be the school's registrar or to do book rental or, things that have nothing to do with school counseling. Then we might want to say, okay, how is it in elementary C that the school is able to get those tasks away from the counselors so that the counselors could spend all their time working with kids and parents directly in school counseling services. So yeah, so just, I think this is going to just open up wonderful conversations about how, how we're using counselor time. So yeah, so in a minute we'll pause and take questions. So if you have any questions around this, please make sure you're typing them in, and we'll address those in a second. Okay, so here's another report. This is the priority goals report. So what we've done here is all of your schools will be listed across the top, and then down the side are all the priority goals that they've entered. If they used one of our suggested goals, those appear here, or if they typed in their own goal, that appears down in the school-generated goals. So there's several things that you could glean from this report as a district person. And again, you notice that we only have 3 schools that have finished this step. As more and more schools enter their priority goals, we'll see better trends across these goals. So, but if I'm just looking at this right now, I'm thinking, oh, I have 2 schools that have implemented this goal. One's an intermediate school, and one's a high school. I wonder if I want to have that goal at both levels. So I go over here and I see, create relationships with adults that support success. Well, maybe at the intermediate school, kids are going to have relationships with adults at the elementary school and maybe with some of their partners, where in the senior high, it would be just something, totally different. So there's some goals that I think make a lot of sense to put at both levels. And then the other thing that you could notice on this is, let's just pretend that there are 2 intermediate schools in here. Let's say that you, at the district level, you thought, man, this is a really good goal, and it should be a goal in all of our intermediate schools, not just this one. And so you might call the other school or send them an email and say, we're kind of thinking about, or how would you feel about putting in this goal to create relationships that support success? Then it could be a district-wide goal. So as you start to see trends, you might look to see, should we be nudging one of the other elementary schools to add a priority goal? So, it doesn't matter what school you go to in our district, you're going to be helped by your counselors to reach that priority goal or to make that choice. Yeah, so that's the priority goals. One other thing you could use this report for is, let's say that both intermediate schools had the same priority goal. If you do decide to make that a district goal, then you could enter it in to the system as a district goal, and also have that be one of the goals then for your Lilly grant. That it's going to, because it's going to be a district-wide goal, as opposed, you can also have a goal for your Lilly grant that's a goal for each individual school, but I think it would be nice to have both district-wide goals and then individual school goals. And when we get to writing your grant, we'll help with that. Okay, this is district level survey data. Again, fantastic stories in this data. I loved looking through this district's data. I actually kind of couldn't draw myself away from it. So in these 3 questions, again, we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elementary schools, 2 intermediates in the middle. So the first question is, do you usually participate in class? The district average was 92% said yes to that question. They usually participate. And as we look across the schools, 93, 93, 91, 91, it's kind of the same across all of the schools. So really, no issues there. And if I go to this last question, do you usually ask your teachers for help when you're confused? 87, which is close to 92, is kind of in the ballpark. 87% said yes. And if I go across from school to school, I'm getting, not a wide variation between schools. In this middle question, do you have a way to organize your class materials and assignments? Um, so 54% of all students in the district said yes. That is in stark contrast to 92% on this question and 87% in this question. My guess is there's something going on here. It could be that kids do have a way of organizing their class materials and assignments, but they just don't know it. So that's something to consider, because we have to remember that this is a survey and a student's perception of their knowledge and their skills. But my guess from my years in doing this, with a 40-point difference there, I think there's probably an issue here that's bigger than just chance. Okay, so if I look across then, I've got this elementary school with 65, this elementary school with 30. So, we're looking at 30%. So we're looking at a 35-point difference in these two elementary schools. This one's closer to the first one, 57. Here's another lower one, 33. Here's another higher one, 53, 58, 68, 50. So again, from a district perspective, I'd be wanting to ask two questions if I were in your central office working with these schools. One question I have is 54% okay as a district level? Don't we want all of our students to have a way to organize their class materials and assignments? Really, this should be, 100%. Or if we take away that 7 to 8% of the kids are just going to blow off the survey, we should at least be in the low 90s on this one. So, and then the other thing I'd be wanting to say is, I'd want to talk with this elementary school and this elementary school, maybe with their principal or their counselors, and saying, our survey data is showing that kids in your specific school are saying that they don't have a way to organize their class materials and assignments. Do you think that could be true? And do we want to kind of ask kids about that or ask teachers about that? And, if everybody agrees that that's an issue, then do we want to make that into one of our root causes, that kids don't have this skill and this knowledge? So you're able to look at survey data that's disaggregated by schools, which I think is pretty awesome. Lots of cool questions. Okay, so I'm going to pause here real quickly. Let me check in with Debbie on those summary reports. Do we have any questions?
The one question that we have from Jessica is, where can I find the list of examples of activities that fall within each category, which is guidance, counseling, management, and non-program and advocacy? She's seen it, but she can't remember where to find that.
Okay, we just put that up actually in a new place yesterday, so that's one of the things I'm going to show you today. So hang loose, and we'll cover that in just a sec. Okay, that's it, Debbie?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now let's look forward. So again, your schools are coming into next week with their priority goals established. Now remember, a priority goal is a choice that we want kids to make that kids are not making right now. And so our question for this month is, why aren't kids making that choice? And we call those reasons root causes. So there's two parts to this coming month. One is to identify why kids aren't making the choices we want them to make, or what are your root causes. And then we're going to look at activities that students can do, that schools and communities can implement to address those root causes. So we're going to look at what are our root causes, and then we're going to explore activities that we could put in place to address whatever those root causes are. So that's going to happen in March. Then once we've done that exploration, we're going to come back to the council in April, and we're going to say, okay, we did all this, we know what our root causes are, we did all this exploration, and here are some possible delivery models that we'd like to suggest for your consideration, and here are some possible activities that we'd like to suggest for your consideration. So in April, we'll give some suggestions to the council about delivery models and activities. Let the council talk about those. They may come up with brand new delivery models or brand new activities that they would like to be considered as well. So we'll talk about all that, and then we'll identify the delivery models that you'll implement over the next 4 years and the activities that you'll implement over the next 4 years. And then finally, we'll start to do the preparation for that. So we'll do a 4-year implementation plan. If a school is not planning on doing the Lilly implementation grant, they'll have the option of doing a 1-year implementation plan. And then we'll also do a 4-year budget, or if they're not doing the Lilly grant, they'll have the option of doing a 1-year budget. So then we'll start to prepare. And I hope what you're seeing is that this 4-year implementation plan will be dropped into your Lilly implementation grant, as will the 4-year budget. So we're kind of preparing to get ready with your grant application. Okay, so that's what's coming up. Schools, again, we said this last time, the schools will be completed with their work by May 9th, and that will give you 10 days to write your grant. So we suggest, maybe a full day of grant writing. Just block that out so that you can protect yourself and really be able to dig into that grant app, maybe with a couple of half days following to, if you have to do any research or follow up with the schools, you can do that. Also, we'd like you to schedule that time as close to May 10th as possible if you would like us to do a friendly review of your first draft. So if you want us to do that review, the sooner you can get it to us, the better. If all the districts gave me their drafts on May 19th, I would not be able to do them all justice. So the sooner you can get it to me, the better. Okay, so let's look at the schools' activities. So here's what the schools are going to do this month. And again, they're working on root causes and their exploration. Okay, so this is what we're going to teach them next week. So, if they talk about these things, you're now in the loop and you'll be able to know what they're talking about. So the first thing the schools are going to do is they're going to send an email to all of the council members. And in that email, and that will go out like a week or two before their second meeting with the council. In that email, we're going to ask them to review the school's priority goals, and then we're going to ask them to review their root cause data. So we'll give them a link in that email where they can open up the school's guidance needs data, their counseling needs data, and their opportunities data from the counselor survey. And we'll ask them, do you find anything in this data that would keep kids from making the choice that we want them to make? When they find something, they're going to write it on a sticky note, and the email gives them a kind of a template for how to put that information on the sticky note. So we've warned the council members that there's going to be pre-meeting tasks to do, and they're going to involve digging into data, and they're not going to be quick tasks. They're going to maybe take an hour or two to do. So I think the council is prepped that they're putting in this time before they come to the meeting. Okay, so now they come to the meeting with their stack of sticky notes. And at the meeting, what we do is there will be a we'll break into small groups, and then there will be a poster for each of the priority goals. So the priority goal will be written on the top of the poster, and then the poster is divided into 3 sections: guidance, counseling, and opportunities. And the council members will stick their little sticky notes in the appropriate section. And then they'll just discuss it. They'll say, okay, what are the what lack of knowledge is getting in the way of this specific choice? What counseling issues are getting in the way? What opportunities are we not giving kids that we need to, that are getting in the way of this specific choice? And then we'll use a Delphi consensus building model, and the council will come up with their root causes, the reason that kids aren't making the choices that you want them to make. Okay, then once we know those reasons, your steering team will go into exploration mode. So this will happen the day after their meeting with the council. There's a new point person on the steering team who kind of takes over now. Up to this point, the data collection point person has been doing a lot, and the meeting facilitation and the council recruitment point person have been doing all the work. The exploration point person has really had nothing to do up to this point. So now they're kind of taking charge. It's their turn. And what they're going to do is make sure that everybody has considered the ASA elements of model school counseling programs. That's a self-study, and they're going to assess the degree to which their school delivery methods and activities align with these elements of model school counseling programs that we've identified. And again, we've been doing this and helping schools develop model programs for 20 plus years. So from our own observation, we know what school counseling programs that raise achievement, the kinds of activities and delivery models that they have in place. And then we've also done a literature review so that we could make sure that our observation was in line with research. So we'll do that self-study. And then the schools are also going to look at the Indiana school counseling competencies for students. If the school is interested in becoming a Gold Star, Indiana Gold Star school, we need to make sure that there are activities that address each of the school counseling competencies that help kids master those competencies. So we want your schools, your counselors to be familiar with those counseling competencies, because next month, as we're starting to really select our activities, we need to make sure that there's an activity that's going to address each of those competencies. And then the third thing, and probably the most important thing, is we want the schools to consider their own root causes. What are the choices that we want kids to make, and what's getting in the way? And then they'll start to explore. So and again, these tasks are just done by the steering team, not the council. This is in preparation for the next council meeting. So the steering team members or their appointees, their friends, their spouses, whoever that are assigned, they are going to conferences during the month of March. They're doing site visits. They're looking at doing a database search using several databases of activities that we're going to give them. And then by the end of the month, we are asking them to enter into our system possible delivery models and possible activities. The steering team is not picking the activities and the delivery models. They're not making the decision. They're just coming up with ideas that they would like to present to the council. So that's kind of the end of March. It's a busy month, as has been every month, because there's kind of two things. One is we're identifying the root causes, and then the next thing we're doing is getting ready for the April meeting. So we're doing all the exploration so we can make suggestions to the council. Okay, then, yeah, so let me stop there. Debbie, any other questions come in before I go on to district stuff?
Yes, where can we get the PowerPoint for today's webinar?
Oh, I forgot to upload that. I will email it to, nope, let me just upload it right now. That'd be the easiest. Thank you. Let me get out here. I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. So I want to make sure I've saved it. And let's see, I'm going to here. This one's in session, edit. And handouts. Oh, not editable in session. That's interesting. I've done that before where I have edited it. Okay. That must be new. We will email it to you. Actually, I'll put it up on the online system. I'll show you where that is. Okay, so we'll post it on the online system. That'll be up by tomorrow. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. Good question. Any other questions, Debbie?
Lydia also asks, when will the district manual, the VTA district manual, be available?
The district manual, we've been putting all of the links right in the process page. We will eventually put them into the manual. We've just been working so hard to get everything ready for y'all that we haven't, and we knew that you had access through the process page, that we haven't replicated the links in the manual page. So you have everything you need. There's nothing new that would be in the manual page. But eventually I'll try to work that up on the priority list. We'll update that manual page as well. Good question. Anything else, Debbie?
Nope, that's it. She says, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you have everything you need. Okay, so now let's look at district things to consider. Okay, first of all, I just want to remind you again that a root cause, when we're looking this month at your root causes and the school's root causes, we're looking at them for each individual priority goal. So if one priority goal is that students don't know what a FAFSA is, then we're going to figure out why don't they know. If another priority goal is that students don't talk to their parents about post-secondary, then we want to know why isn't that happening. And once we know the whys, then we can try to figure out what to do about it. So, but what I wanted you to think about is that the whys tend to fall in three areas. Either kids lack knowledge they need, or they lack opportunity. We haven't given them the opportunity to make a choice. Kids can't choose to take an AP class, for example, if we don't offer AP. So it could be an opportunity issue, or it could be a social personal issue that the student's struggling with that is interfering with their ability to make all choices. So the data that the schools have available and the data that you have available to help you explain why students aren't making the choices that we want them to make come in these three reports, the guidance data report, the opportunity data report, and the counseling data report. And I'll show you in a second how to access that. Okay. So in terms of activity focus, and again, I'm just kind of summarizing some things that I touched on, but I just want to make sure that we're kind of driving this home. All of the school's activities in the building should point to either a root cause, a reason that kids aren't making the choices that we want them to make. So these activities are helping kids address the issue that's interfering with their ability to make the choice. Or there may be some activities that don't align with our root cause, but we're putting them in place because we want Gold Star, and Gold Star says that we have to address all of the counseling competencies in order to earn the Gold Star Award. And we'll have some activities that do both. Activity 5 here is helping address this root cause, this lack of knowledge, this social personal issue, or this lack of opportunity. Activity 5 is addressing that, and Activity 5 is addressing a school counseling competency that we need to do for Gold Star. Okay, in my personal opinion, the place where we really need to focus is the root causes, because these are the reasons that your kids aren't making the targeted choices, your goals, that you want the kids to make. But we know that that in order to earn Gold Star, which a lot of you want to do, you need to meet all these indicators. One other thing that I might point out is that the ASCA RAMP Award, the national award, does not require any activities. They want it to all be data-driven. So for ASCA, they would tell you focus on these root causes. In Indiana, they do have, they want all schools to focus on all of the indicators. Okay, so we're targeting our activities. Now, this next section is, I think, really important to your Lilly grant, and I think is also, more importantly, really important to helping kids. So we have been suggesting to your schools, and as we get closer to activities and delivery models now, we're going to give more information about this. But we're suggesting to your schools that they set up a school counseling system rather than a school counseling program. So in a school counseling, in a traditional school counseling program, there would be goals and root causes, and the counselors would implement activities to address the goals and root causes. To be a Gold Star school, this is what you need: counselor-generated activities that address these goals and root causes. Now, a lot of schools will start to think, if we had other players implementing activities, we could not only introduce a concept, we could reinforce it, we could build upon it, we could sit down with kids and help them apply that concept to a decision that they're trying to make. There's all kinds of things that we could do if there were more players. And so what we're suggesting is, though, a way to get more players is to set up a teacher advisory program or an advisor-advisee program, have them do some guidance activities, a community-based guidance program, a parent-led guidance program where parents are sitting at home over the dinner table and you've provided them with guidance activities to do. Integration with academic curriculum, where you've simply asked your academic teachers to give a real-world application to a task that they're asking kids to do that's applied to a guidance decision. And the teachers love it because they're always looking for real-world applications, and they're also real-world applications that are pertinent to the kids as 13-year-olds or as 18-year-olds. So it's real meaningful, very engaging for the kids. So, and there may be other delivery methods that we haven't thought of, so we're not ruling that out at all. But we're asking the schools this month to think about, do they want to have just a traditional counselor delivery method, or do they want to bring more players in so that we can address kids with more activities by using some of these other delivery methods? So in this system, there's some real benefits to it. Here's our definition. A system is a collection of coordinated programs that are implemented throughout the school and the community using a variety of delivery models to help students make targeted choices in areas that impact academic achievement. So this is the systems approach. In a system, I love it because we're helping kids get the same messages wherever they turn. If we're wanting kids to understand what a FAFSA is, if we've gone out and we've talked to all the coaches in our school about what a FAFSA is, and please talk to your players about FAFSAs and how important they are and blah blah blah, that's helpful. If we have teacher advisors that are saying the same thing, if their parents are telling them that, if we have community members that are saying the same thing about FAFSA, now no matter where the kids are turning, I mean, they order a pizza and the pizza comes and here's a box, and on the outside of the box it says there's money for post-secondary, make sure you complete a FAFSA. Wherever they turn, their faith-based organization or their school or home or in the community, they're getting the same messages. And so you can also coordinate those messages between all the players. Some of the common messages that we've seen over the years are things like education opens doors, homework is key. For a student who never completes homework, they don't get very far. All kids should continue their education after 12th grade, and there's a variety of ways to pay for post-secondary education. If kids are getting those messages no matter where they turn, at home, at school, in the community, we're starting to change the culture now of the community. So system, I think, is just, that's, to me, it's just the way to go if we really want to have impact. So in a system, we're sharing responsibility for guiding the community's young people. It's not just the school's responsibility or the counselor's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility. And, by engaging more people, we can implement more activities. We can also sequence activities. For example, if one of the root causes is that 8th graders don't have an opportunity to visit a variety of post-secondary campuses, the counselors might go into the classrooms and do a guidance lesson on the types of post-secondary ed. The PTA is talking to parents about the types of post-secondary ed. Then the Kiwanis Club has set up a field trip where they're actually going to take kids on a tour of several different types of post-secondary institutions. We've talked with parents about, here's how to set up a campus visit for your child and go with them on a campus visit. And then maybe the English teachers are asking their kids to do a compare and contrast writing assignment between 2 different types of post-secondary ed. So in a system, we can hit the same concepts from multiple directions. So really a great way to teach kids the content we want them to learn. So, and then we are, in this way, we're creating a new culture. So the other thing about setting up the system this way is that it's sustainable, because notice I didn't have to hire anybody new. I don't have to look for funding to, and hope that that funding is going to still be there from the, 4 years from now, from a promise that was made today that the community foundation or some other organization would come up with funding to support the counselor that you're hiring with the Lilly funds. So there, it's not, this makes your initiative not funding dependent. Um, so yeah, so in the 4 years of implementation, you would be developing the materials, you would be training your participants. So after 4 years, you're good to go. You can do this, forever without additional funding. So okay, so and this is kind of what I just alluded to, that in the 4-year implementation window, especially if you're working with us and we're helping you to do this, we'll set up the timeline so that you would develop your system, you would train your activity providers, you would then implement and then evaluate the whole system. And again, the system might just be a teacher advisor program in your school, or it may be a teacher advisor program plus a community-based guidance initiative. And then we also want to think about working within capacity. So just remembering that you have 4 years, to get this set up. That you can provide a stipend for those who are working outside of contract hours to develop curriculum or to develop the training for the providers. You can do a stepped implementation. I like to do that a lot with advisor-advisee programs. In 1 year we might just get the 6th grade program all set up, and then the next year we'll sustain the 6th grade program, but then add the 7th grade program. And then sharing leadership, you might decide, okay, we're going to have a teacher advisor program and a community-based guidance. We need a kind of a leader for both of those, or a convener for both of those different kinds of delivery methods. So, okay, so we just want you to be thinking about that. We really want to think out of the box and not just consider a traditional counselor implemented program. Okay. So just one little review, then we'll get on to district tasks. So by the end of March, your schools will have entered into the RSC online system their root causes and the possible delivery methods that they're going to ask the council to consider, and possible activities that they're going to suggest to the council. So I guess we wanted to point this out because as a district person, if you love the idea of teacher advisor programs and you want all of your middle schools to do that, now would be the time to start talking to your middle schools about why a teacher advisor program might be so great. Okay. Okay, let's pause there, stop again real quickly. Debbie, questions?
No questions at this time.
Okay, kind of watching the clock. We have 8 minutes left, so I'm kind of going to try to hurry through this part. Okay, remember for your district that all activities are optional. You don't have to do any of this. We're not checking. You're not submitting anything to us. Okay, so in March, there are 3 different types of activities that you're doing as a district. One is going to happen before your schools finalize their root causes. And I'll look at that in a second. And then the other is going to happen after after your schools kind of enter their root causes into the system. So in this step, right now you're participating in the live webinar, so you've done steps 1 and 2. We want to review the district priority goals. Some of you have decided not to have any district required goals. That's fine. And now we want to review your district level root cause data. So if I click this report button, I get a page that looks like this, and this is where you're going to find the lack of knowledge data, the counseling needs data, and then the lack of opportunities data, where you would go in to find those things. The guidance needs and the counseling needs are just the survey data, and we've already looked at that. So I'm just going to show you real quickly the opportunities data. So this is what that report looks like. What we've done on this is that each of your counselors estimated how many students had this opportunity at some point when they were at your school, at each of their school. So take a learning styles assessment. And what we've had 4 schools report on this. And if I go over to the 2017, I could see that one of the intermediate schools said that this data was unavailable. Another one said they weren't sure if anybody provided this at the intermediate level. The middle school said the school was the provider, and the high school said that they also were providers. So they were doing learning styles assessments at the middle school and the high school. And then what we did was we went to DOE's database and added up all of the students from these schools to be able to come up with, for you, the percentage of students in your district that are involved, to your knowledge, that are involved in learning styles assessment. So this is kind of interesting. I also like looking at this from year to year. So in 2016, 0%. And in 2017, you know, we've increased to 34%. So my guess is this might have been one of the priority goals at least one of these schools, and they've increased that. So yeah, so we can see, you know, enroll in an AP class. Maybe that was a priority goal. That was just the high school reporting. Went from 35% to 50%. So this is telling you what opportunities kids are. This is telling you about the opportunities that are available in your schools and what percentage of students are actually taking advantage of those opportunities. Okay, so that's your opportunity data, and just going back, that is one of the 3 root causes. They either don't have those opportunities, or they don't have knowledge, or there's a social personal thing getting in the way. Okay, so if you want to, you could enter district root causes, and again, I think that this is going to help you down the road write the Lilly grant if you kind of go ahead and put in the district goals that you want to do in your Lilly grant. I'd enter them in. That'll just help you think through this. And then also the root causes that you'll write about in your Lilly grant. I think this will help you think through this. So when you click on this enter, you're going to get a page that looks like this. And what it will say is it will list each of your priority goals, and then it will give you a chance to enter a root cause. So discuss future college and career plans with the counselor as a priority goal, and here's our root cause for why this isn't currently happening. And then let me go back, you click on here, add a root cause, and your little pop-up comes up and you write the root cause in, and then you tell us if this is a lack of knowledge, is this a social personal issue, or is it a lack of opportunity issue, or we gave you an other, but I don't think any schools have ever used that. So, and then just hit save. Okay, so that's how to enter your root causes. You know, after you look at your data and you know what the root causes are, it's really simple to enter. Okay, and then in the second section, as I mentioned, whoops, I'm going to go back up to the top section. If you do want to have district-wide root causes, we need to make sure that you let your schools know that so that they can enter them in as school root causes. Okay, and then after the fact, we're going to look at the school's root causes. And again, if we start to see root causes that are all the same across schools, you might decide, okay, let's make that a district root cause. So in other words, I like to think of this as the top-down part where you're telling schools what to do, and this is the bottom-up part where you're looking at what schools have done and seeing if there are places where you can help or coordinate. Okay, so then here's the second part. And again, remember, as a district, none of this is required, but if you want to start to explore activities yourself, here's all the exploration tools that we're giving to your schools. So that site visit guide, and we had the question earlier about where the suggested activities are that we see in model schools. That's embedded in the site visit guide. And then professional development opportunities, that is a sheet, actually that will be up tomorrow, is on our timeline to get that going tomorrow. Root cause advice from other schools, that's a report where if a school had the same priority goal as you and they met that goal, they have given you advice, or if they did not meet their goal, they've given you advice. School counseling lesson plan database, you can search for activities in, so you enter a keyword like FAFSA, and all the schools who have entered lesson plans about FAFSAs, their lesson plans will pop up. We have a database of over 2,000 community-based guidance activities, so you can go in here if you're thinking about doing a community-based initiative. You can go in here, type the word FAFSA in, and see what community organizations across the state are doing. So public libraries or economic development councils, all those groups. Site visit summaries. As our schools start to do site visits, they're going to enter a summary of their site visit, and this will create a database then that our other schools can search. Lily's research and resources report. Lily has a report that they put together on best practices that you can look in there as well. And then just going into Google and doing a Google search for like FAFSA or FAFSA in schools, or and see what comes up. And then if you do a site visit, we'd like you to put in a summary report so that we could start to build this database. So please make sure you've done that. And then if you decide this month that you want to mandate a delivery method like a teacher advisor program or community-based guidance or a specific activity across the district, then this would be the time by the end of March that you're letting the schools know that, so that they can make sure that they get that into the activities that they're writing in April. So, okay. Just wrapping up another minute. The grant writing process. I think I'm going to show these slides every time we meet to just kind of show you, what you're now prepared to do. So, we feel like we can do this first section of the executive summary and part of the vision, and then the outcomes. Those are the RSC priority goals. So, your district-wide goals and your school goals will become this section on outcomes. Part of the narrative, the features of the model to which the applicant aspires, that would be, RSC model. And then this new guiding all kids, if they like that idea. Features of the current programs that do not align with the model. So what doesn't align with what you're doing, and let's get rid of those things. And then the qualitative and quantitative outcomes with the priority goals. Sustainability, this guiding all kids system, brings in other players, so we don't need funding to sustain. And then these things we haven't done yet, but just it's coming, that will create a tool for a Gantt chart, and then the detailed line item budget for each year of the 4 years. So, okay. And then here's the webinar schedule. Just to remind you that our next webinar is, when is that? March 22nd at 3:30. So we'll see you again then. I do want to show you, before we get to that district, let me see here. So in the elements of model school counseling programs, this is that self-study that your schools will be doing. And the nice thing is that because they're an RSC school, they're already doing all of this except for one part. So organizational structure, they have all of that in place. However, a model program, we believe, will have a variety of delivery methods. And so, and that's a choice for your schools. They do not have to do these in RSC. So, so they may or may not say that they have those things. But everything else in here, they're going to have, because they're an RSC school. Okay, then in this appendix, one of the things, one of the indicators, and I guess that's the other one that they don't have, which I'll put in red as well. One of the indicators say that, model schools tend to implement or tend to give students certain opportunities. And if the school clicks here, that list will come up. And here's the list. And basically, so this answers the question from before. These are opportunities that, in our observation of model schools and our literature search, that these are opportunities that kids tend to have in a model school counseling program, and we're defining model as a school that ends up raising student achievement. So kids have the opportunity to participate in a rigorous curriculum. And then so here's the type of opportunity or the type of activity. So this is an engagement issue. And then we suggest this starts out at the primary level, and then it's built upon and sustained through through 12th grade. So if I scroll down, I get to the section that is starting at the intermediary level, intermediate level, and some of these are engagement issues, some are guidance academic, some are guidance counseling focused, some are and so some of these would start at the intermediate level and then sustain, and then others would start at the middle school level. And some of these, I look at this and I see, oh my gosh, there's only like 5 new things that are starting at the middle school level, but look at what they are. Creating a written post-secondary plan, creating a written 4-year high school course plan. That's huge. I mean, and probably on this whole list, that's the most important thing, I think, in the whole list. Yeah, so that's the list. 43 different opportunities that we believe a model school counseling program would provide for students. So this is, a place as you're looking at your student choices and your activities and your delivery methods, how do you get all of these things to kids? And in a way that's not just a, one-time sit and get, but, we're maybe, just looking at this one, on that 8th grade one on developing a 4-year high school course plan. Maybe that's going to be a series of activities where we give kids good information, and then we do a workshop with them, and then we sit down one-on-one with them to go over their tentative plan. Maybe we're bringing their parents in. There's just all kinds of, maybe we want kids to, we really want to push AP in their 4-year high school course plan, so we're going to bring in, I'm in middle school, but I'm going to bring in the AP teachers from the high school and do a program where that they present. So, this really, even though it's one opportunity, it could end up being many, many, many different activities. So, in many different providers. So, okay. So, let's go back and the discussions. Here's the last slide, and then we'll take questions real quickly. So these are the questions that I think at the district level would be good for you to talk about and answer. The first one is, how are our schools progressing in RSC? And again, if you see a school that's kind of lagging behind, I'd give them, if you would, a little nudge or ask if you could help. Suggest to them that they call us and let us help if we can. How do counselors use their time? I think that would just be interesting data to look at. And then in terms of bottom up, based on the school's priority goals that they entered in February, should we edit our district priority goals? So this is the bottom up. The school did the work this month in February on priority goals, and now we're going to see, okay, is there anything in there that would make us want to edit our district priority goals or to add new district priority goals? And then the top-down things are going to be focused on root causes. So based on our district guidance, counseling, and opportunities data, should we require any root causes district-wide? And based on our exploration of delivery methods and activities, should we require any delivery methods like teacher advisor program, community-based guidance, parent-based guidance, or individual activities district-wide? So those are kind of the 5 questions to look at in your discussions this time. Remember that the schools are meeting next week, so if you can be thinking about that this week, and if you need to share information with them, please do so before they start working on their March activities. So, okay, so I think that's kind of it. Again, this is really cool. I love looking at that district level data. There's just so many stories in that. I think you'll really find that interesting. And remember, the data just gives you a starting point for a discussion. If the data show that you know, the counselors in one of your buildings are spending 90% of their time doing things that have nothing to do with kids or parents or guidance and counseling. That doesn't make those counselors bad counselors, but it sure begs for a discussion about what's going on, and it might be a reporting issue. It, you know, might be actually a appropriate use of the counselor's time issue. But the data is just to open up the discussion. So, okay, Debbie, what questions do we have?
Right now, the only question that I see is a online system question. Should they be seeing under the district side the items under number 6? Is that up and ready to go?
No. So let me go to that real quickly. I know what she's talking about. So here's a process page from one of our districts, Dunlin. And right now you'll see that the number 6 that I just showed you, where we're exploring all of the I have all the different exploration tools, that's missing from here. I just realized that right before we went live with the webinar, so our tech staff knows that right now, and they'll get that up tomorrow. That won't take long to put up, so I would think by noon tomorrow that will all be in there. And then the other thing that was questioned is the manual, and we just haven't taken the time to do that because, oops, I timed out. You can see the manual says coming soon, and basically what we do in the manual is we just take all of the documents that are in, wait, let me go back to the process tab. We just take all the documents that are in these tool columns, so everything that has an I in here, that's like a document, we put over there in the manual. So you have everything that you need, and quite frankly, I don't think there's a lot of schools that actually go to the manual very much. They tend to just for most of the tools go right into the tools column. So, okay. Any other questions, Debbie?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. And oh, the other question we had is, where can you get these slides? These slides will be, let's see, root causes. They will be right here. Participate in the live archived webinar. The slides will be, the archive will be here, and we'll put the slides in there also. You know what? Nope, let's put the slides on the manual page, because you really don't need those to watch the, so we'll make sure the manual page at least has this PowerPoint in it tomorrow. So, okay, sounds good. Anything else, Debbie? Good for the cause?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks to everybody. And Janet, before we hang up, do you just want to say hi? Are you still here? Do you want to say hi to people? I know you had another appointment you needed to run to. I think Janet has run to her other meeting. Either that or can't figure out how to unmute her microphone. So, okay, Janet's wonderful. She is the former principal at New Albany High School, and has been involved in a lot of our initiatives and really understands vision to action. So we're really pleased to have her working with some of your schools. So, okay, everybody, I think we'll close. That's it. And thank you all for participating. Thanks.